Back
Hi,
again, Marianne.
good to see you
Mark
again.
James is from Mojo U in the UK, and he's working with myself and the Master Advisor program to make sure that small businesses get a great heads up on what to do around GDPR. So let's talk about processing. I mean, for example, I actually back up physically, but sometimes I send stuff to the cloud. For
Yeah,
example, this Zoom meeting I just sent to the cloud. And if I was, and I do, I mentor people. So I actually sometimes send that to the cloud and then send them the link afterwards. So I have to make sure that my processor is GDPR client, GDPR complying.
yeah, yeah, and of course the challenges are varied because this Zoom video you're doing is actually fairly low risk. There's not a lot of personal data being shared, and but if you were a clinician and I was a patient and we were discussing my medical conditions, then clearly it has wider implications. So yeah, we have an obligation in Europe if we are processing information, that means storing or using. So if we're storing information with another legal entity, so a cloud-based service provider, the question for us is, or the opportunity for us is, well, we need to know what they're doing with this information. How do they secure it? How do they delete it? Who has access to the information? Where is it? What country is it sat in? We have a legal obligation to make sure that those companies that have our information are doing what's right and appropriate with it. And we have to get some forms of guarantees that are doing the right things with our information. So the likes of Google, Google Drive, Microsoft, all those players are doing lots of work. Infusionsoft, HubSpot, all those providers we use. It'll also impact those companies that provide websites for companies where they do process data through it. How secure are those sites? What information again are they storing? How is that being stored, shared, and accessed? So it's quite a big piece of work. So in the pack we spoke about in the earlier video, one of the things we put in there is a questionnaire for those people. So look, you've got our information. What do you do with it? We need to satisfy ourselves that you do look after it, and there are appropriate security and measures in place to protect that information.
Yeah, and one of the things I know a lot of small businesses do is that they outsource sort of a virtual assistant, and they can be in the
Yeah,
Philippines or in
yeah,
India. And, sometimes some companies, small businesses want to be 24/7, so they want someone online to answer questions from India or the Philippines. If those companies are not GDPR compliant, they really need to think again and change to someone and retrain, in some instances, people to be GDPR compliant. Isn't that correct?
yeah. From our point of view, if we were to work with a processor in Australia, then we would look to put what they call a model contract in place, which is a pre-approved set of terms and conditions. So it's quite an easy process for us to do it. But beyond that, we would have to satisfy ourselves as a controller in the UK, i.e. we are the legal owners of the data, that the process we're using in Australia is compliant, and they would demonstrate that through things like risk assessments, data mapping, so we can see how they do it, policies, procedures, those kinds of things, and where appropriate, where they've had independent verification. So in the UK, that would be through like an ISO accreditation where assessors independently audit them, but that tends to be bigger companies
Yeah,
because of the cost. In
it
the
is the
UK,
cost.
yeah, we have in the UK frameworks, things like they call it Cyber Essentials, which is a government minimum security standard, which gives you a degree of certification, which is quite low cost, and quite a lot of our smaller customers use that. But it's about satisfying data controllers that if you guys are processing information on behalf of a controller, then you're taking due care and attention. You do look after it. You do back it up, you do secure it, all with appropriate measures to make sure the data is safe. And the key is about appropriate, what's appropriate. Because,
Absolutely. And I don't actually look after criminal records or health
no,
records. So
yeah,
for me, if I leave my office, I lock the door. I
yeah,
have filing cabinets that I can lock as well if I go away for a period of
yeah,
time. So I feel that, as a small business, I'm probably pretty up there with what I need to do from a data processing
yeah,
perspective. But I think everybody needs to start thinking this way, because in Australia, it's my view, and a view of quite a lot of people that I've spoken to in the legal profession, is that Australia is going to become more like GDPR, our regulations, and so we may as well start implementing them now, even if we don't have EU customers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just good. I mean, in some respects, it's just a good thing to do because, I mean, from my point of view, I kind of feel that, you know, if we care about our customers, if we value our customers, if we value our employees and that kind of stuff, then we should look after the information that we process about them. Why is that any less important than the person, particularly if it's information about them, that if that was misused, then there's some likely potential harm that could come to the individual, whether it's emotional, physical, or financial. You know, we have a duty of care, and it's just good business. You know,
it is good business.
Yeah, and we've done loads of work with small companies just to help them rethink about their processes, and quite a lot of them we work with don't really have any processes documented. And when we sit down with them and help them understand what they do, they then question what they do and go, actually, there's a better way of doing it. So for some small companies, we've helped them become more efficient. So there are other knock-on benefits that we've seen as a byproduct of what we're doing in terms of helping them comply to regulations.
Yeah, that's great. All right, well, that'll probably be it for today's video, Mark. But I really, really am excited to be working with you and offering this wonderful handbook, GDPR handbook, and business templates. And there's so many templates that you've put together, you know, and if ever anyone needs anything, you've been there, done that, because you've had, several years pulling this together. So it's big.
Yeah, we've taken the advice of, you know, of these small companies that kind of go, you know, what's the bare minimum we have to do to comply, which is the right thing to say, because nobody wants to do more than they have to do.
Absolutely.
Why would you want to do that?
And that's what we're putting in the kit, the bare minimum for people. And if they need more, they know where to go. So thanks very much.